If you walked into a Chicago recording studio in 1973 and heard a young woman tell Stevie Wonder that his first song offering wasn't good enough, you might have thought she'd lost her mind. The legend himself had just played a demo for an unknown funk band, and their 20-year-old lead singer had the audacity to ask, "What else you got?" That woman was Chaka Khan. Her fearlessness would make her one of music's most revolutionary voices. Yet the same fearlessness that made her untouchable on stage would nearly destroy her off it. For decades, the music industry celebrated Khan as their wild queen, while she privately battled demons that threatened to consume 3 generations of her family. This is the story of a woman who refused to be managed in an industry that demanded female compliance, and how that refusal became both her greatest triumph and her most dangerous gamble. Chicago in the 1950s was a city of contradictions, and the Stevens household embodied them all. Young Yvette Marie Stevens grew up watching her father navigate his bohemian lifestyle while battling serious substance dependencies. Her mother, a devout Catholic, tried to anchor the family through faith. Music filled their home alongside the chaos. Wine flowed at gatherings where adults discussed art and politics. The boundaries between creative brilliance and personal destruction blurred early in Yvette's consciousness. By 11, she'd formed the Crystalettes with her sister and neighborhood friends. They sang doo-wop harmonies on street corners and at local events. Performance offered something her home life couldn't control. On stage, she commanded attention through talent alone. The applause came predictably, reliably. Unlike the household dynamics that shifted with her father's struggles, music responded to her efforts with mathematical precision. Hit the note, earn the response. At 13, a Yoruba priest gave her a new name during a ceremony, Chaka, meaning fire. The name would prove prophetic in ways no one imagined. Fire illuminates. Fire transforms. Fire, left unchecked, consumes everything in its path. She wore the name like armor, embracing an identity separate from Yvette Stevens and the complicated legacy she'd inherited. The teenage Chaka moved through Chicago's music scene with unusual confidence. She performed in clubs despite her age, absorbing the city's rich musical traditions. Blues, soul, gospel, and the emerging funk sound all left their marks. Musicians twice her age recognized something special in her voice, a rawness that couldn't be taught, an emotional depth unusual for someone so young. She sang like someone who'd already lived multiple lifetimes. Her home remained a study in contrasts. Creative energy collided with addiction's undertow. She watched her father's talent battle his demons, neither fully winning. The pattern imprinted itself on her developing psyche. Brilliance and self-destruction weren't opposites in her world. They were dance partners, inseparable and interdependent. This early education in duality would shape every choice she'd make. The Black Panther Party attracted young Chaka with its message of empowerment and resistance. She joined as a teenager, drawn to their vision of radical change. The Panthers gave her a framework for understanding systemic oppression, particularly how it affected Black artists in white-controlled industries. She attended meetings, participated in community programs, and briefly carried a weapon as part of their self-defense philosophy.
What was inspiring to you about that movement?
That it was correct, that it was honest, and they were telling some truths.
There's a moment where, after an altercation with the police, you find yourself in possession of a police officer's gun.
And I made a decision.
Did it take you a while to figure this out?
Took me a second, yeah.
And what did you do with the gun?
I threw it in Botany's pond.
The moment that defined her path came at a campus pond. Holding the gun in her hand, Chaka faced a choice between 2 forms of revolution. She could fight the system through force, or she could infiltrate it through art. The weapon sank into the water, disappearing beneath the surface. Music would be her ammunition. Performance would be her protest. She'd change the world through funk, not firearms. Ask Rufus was struggling when Chaka encountered them in Chicago's club circuit. The funk band had talent but lacked a distinctive voice. When their lead singer Paulette McWilliams left, she recommended Chaka as her replacement. The band's skepticism vanished the moment Chaka took the stage. She performed Aretha Franklin's hits with such power that audience members threw money onto the stage, an old-school sign of ultimate respect in Chicago's music venues. Khan would later call that night her origin story. The money raining down, the band's stunned expressions, the audience's immediate recognition of her gift, everything crystallized in that moment. The newly christened Rufus, with Chaka as their volcanic center, signed with ABC Records. Their first album in 1973 performed modestly, but everyone who heard it knew something special was brewing. The band's sound evolved around Chaka's voice. Where other funk acts relied on instrumental virtuosity, Rufus built their identity on the contrast between their tight musicianship and their lead singer's untamed delivery. She could shift from a whisper to a roar within a single phrase. Critics noted how she'd squeeze a half-dozen emotions out of a single phrase, even in her early 20s. This emotional complexity set her apart from contemporaries who specialized in single moods or styles. Her refusal to be managed emerged early. Record executives wanted to smooth her rough edges. Producers suggested she tone down her delivery. Chaka ignored them all. She knew her power lay in her authenticity, in the very wildness they wanted to contain. The men in suits could handle the business. She'd handle the art. This divide between her vision and industry expectations would define her entire career. Stevie Wonder arrived at the studio carrying demos for Rufus's second album. The Motown legend had written something specifically for them. The band gathered, reverent in the presence of genius. Wonder played his first offering. The room waited for Chaka's grateful response. Instead, she asked what else he had. The audacity stunned everyone present. Here was an unknown singer challenging one of music's giants. Wonder could have walked out. Instead, he asked her astrological sign. When she said Aries, he smiled and pulled out another tape. Tell Me Something Good had been written for someone exactly like her. Fearless, direct, uncompromising. She shaped her delivery on the spot, pouring herself into the phrasing that would define the song, even though she didn't initially take credit for her input. The single exploded across radio in 1974, 17 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. Peak position of number 3, a Grammy Award for Best R&B Vocal Performance. Rufus had arrived, but the success came with immediate complications. The record label, recognizing Chaka's star power, rebranded them as Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. She later described how something beautiful died when that happened. Her bandmates felt diminished, relegated to backing musicians for her spotlight. The tension poisoned the studio atmosphere. Session musicians whispered about arguments between Chaka and the band. Her inability to soften harsh truths, the same quality that got them "Tell Me Something Good," now created daily friction. She'd tell producers their ideas were weak. She'd inform label executives their marketing strategies missed the point. Her honesty, unfiltered and relentless, made her simultaneously invaluable and impossible. Substances entered the picture gradually, a drink to smooth over band tensions, something stronger to maintain energy during grueling tour schedules. The music industry of the 1970s ran on various forms of chemical enhancement, and Khan found they helped her cope with the pressure of sudden stardom. She could perform at peak intensity, then numb the isolation that followed. The pattern established itself before anyone recognized its danger. Her voice grew more powerful even as her personal stability decreased. Critics marveled at her ability to channel pain into performance. What they didn't realize was how much of that pain was self-inflicted, a cycle where she'd create chaos, then mine it for artistic material. The truths she told in song were becoming harder to face in life. The late 1970s found Khan straddling two careers. Her solo debut, Chaka, appeared in 1978, while she still recorded with Rufus. I'm Every Woman became an anthem of female empowerment, reaching #1 on R&B charts. The song's message of strength and capability reflected the image Khan projected publicly. Privately, she was fragmenting, using what she called herbal shutdowns to manage an increasingly unmanageable life. Her substance use developed its own twisted logic. She maintained strict discipline around performances, no indulgences before shows, careful attention to vocal health, rigorous exercise routines. Between professional obligations, she'd disappear into binges that could last days. She later described knowing when to abstain during the 1980s, a claim that revealed her dangerous belief in controlling addiction through willpower alone. The 1984 release of I Feel For You marked Khan's commercial peak. Prince had written the song, but Khan's version, featuring Grandmaster Mel Mel's rap introduction and Stevie Wonder's harmonica, turned it into something groundbreaking. Music historians often cite it as one of the first major R&B hits to blend hip-hop elements into its core. The fusion of funk, soul, R&B, and rap created a new blueprint for pop music. Khan had once again refused to be confined by genre boundaries. Success brought financial rewards but personal costs. Her marriage to Hassan Khan crumbled, though she kept his surname professionally. The industry celebrated her wild queen persona, booking her for high-profile events where her unpredictability became part of the entertainment. Nobody questioned whether the wildness was a cry for help. As long as she delivered on stage, the machinery kept running. By mid-decade, Khan was one of music's most recognizable voices. She'd won multiple Grammys, sold millions of records, and influenced countless younger artists. She collaborated with jazz musicians, rock stars, and R&B legends, each project showcasing different facets of her talent. The versatility that made her musically unstoppable also enabled her addiction. She could function at such a high level professionally that few recognized how badly she was deteriorating personally. The physical toll became increasingly visible. Her weight fluctuated dramatically. She changed hair colors and styles constantly, as if trying to outrun herself through transformation. Tabloids commented on her appearance, but always within the framework of her eccentric artist image. The entertainment industry had a template for understanding difficult genius. They had no framework for intervention. Studio sessions grew erratic. Engineers spoke off record about Khan arriving hours late or not at all. When she did appear, she might be brilliant or barely functional. Producers learned to schedule multiple sessions, knowing half might be canceled. The whispered label of unmanageable followed her through the industry. Yet her talent was so undeniable that people kept hiring her, enabling the very behavior they complained about. The new millennium brought consequences that couldn't be hidden behind hit records. In 2002, Kanye West sampled Khan's 1985 ballad Through the Fire for his breakout single Through the Wire, recorded after his near-fatal car accident. The song's raw energy introduced her voice to a new generation and mirrored the theme of survival that had long defined her. For Khan, the renewed attention came during a period when the damage she'd hidden for years was beginning to surface. Her son had developed his own substance problems, a devastating echo of the pattern she'd witnessed with her father. The artistic brilliance and self-destruction that had defined 2 generations now threatened a third. When authorities deemed her son and his partner unfit parents, Khan took custody of her granddaughter. She was simultaneously trying to save a child while barely able to save herself. The arrangement was fraught with contradictions. Khan provided material security and genuine love, but her own struggles created an unstable environment. She'd later acknowledged the impossible position, trying to break a generational cycle while still caught in its grip. The little girl needed consistency, routine, safety. Khan could offer fame, resources, and fierce devotion, but not the stability that comes from sobriety. Friends from the industry began dying. Some publicly in dramatic overdoses that made headlines, others quietly, their deaths attributed to natural causes that everyone understood were anything but natural. Each funeral served as a preview of her own possible ending. The music industry that had celebrated her wildness for decades now gathered at memorials for those who couldn't pull back from the edge. Khan's isolation deepened. The party friends disappeared when the party ended. Her family relationships were strained by decades of broken promises and erratic behavior. She had millions of fans but few genuine connections. The queen of funk throne had become a prison, keeping her elevated but alone. She continued performing because it was the only time she felt truly alive. Those moments on stage when her voice could transform pain into beauty. Her granddaughter became both anchor and mirror, reflecting back the consequences of choices while providing motivation for change. Khan saw her own childhood confusion reproduced in the girl's eyes. The same questions about why adults who loved you could be so unreliable. The recognition was devastating. She was recreating the exact dynamic she'd experienced with her father, despite spending decades swearing she'd be different. Prince's death in April 2016 shattered Khan's remaining denial. The news came with a specific detail that stopped her cold. He died from a prescription medication overdose, fentanyl, the same substance she'd been prescribed for chronic pain. She later said she realized she was on the same medication that led to Prince's death. The friend who'd written "I feel for you" for her, who'd understood her genius and her struggles, had lost his battle. She was 63 years old and running out of time. The decision to enter rehab wasn't made alone. Her sister, Chaka Khan, also a singer, had been fighting her own battles with prescription medication. They chose to enter treatment together, a pact between survivors who'd witnessed too much loss. The announcement came in July 2016. Tour dates were postponed. The music industry held its breath, wondering if another legend would become another casualty. Khan later spoke about how rehab facilities treated famous black women differently than white male rock stars. For men, addiction and recovery were badges of honor, proof of living on the edge. For black women, seeking help carried additional stigma. Assumptions about weakness, inability to handle success, confirming stereotypes about instability. She entered treatment anyway, understanding that survival mattered more than perception. The program was intensive. Detox from opioids after decades of use was physically brutal. The psychological work was harder. She had to confront patterns established in childhood, decisions made in altered states, relationships destroyed by her behavior. The facility provided structure, but Khan emphasized that real change came from within. "It really boils down to you," she'd later say, meaning no program could save someone who didn't want saving. Her commitment surprised even herself. After decades of believing she could control her usage, of maintaining that dangerous balance between function and dysfunction, she finally surrendered to the truth. She'd never been in control. The substances had been managing her, not the other way around. This admission, so simple yet so difficult for someone who'd built an identity on being unmanageable, became the foundation of her recovery. She emerged from treatment in August 2016, returning to honor her postponed tour dates. Audiences noticed the difference immediately. Her voice remained powerful, but there was a clarity to her presence, an engagement that had been missing for years. She wasn't performing through a chemical haze anymore. The rawness that had always defined her art was now matched by raw sobriety. Years into sobriety, Khan lives as proof that survival itself is rebellion. She maintains a vegan diet, practices meditation, and speaks openly about recovery without shame or false humility. The woman who once used herbal shutdowns to escape now faces reality directly. She's still unmanageable, but on terms that support rather than destroy her life. Her 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction felt like vindication. Standing at the podium, she didn't hide her surprise at still being alive to receive the honor. "I'm genuinely surprised I'm still here," she told interviewers, the statement carrying weight that only survivors understand. The industry that had enabled her destruction now celebrated her resurrection. Though Khan understood the irony perfectly, she continues performing in her 70s with undimmed power. Recent concerts, including a triumphant Hollywood Bowl appearance, showcase an artist who's integrated all her experiences, the glory and the devastation, into her sound. Young artists still cite her as an influence. Beyoncé's performances carry echoes of Khan's fearlessness. Contemporary R&B singers study her vocal runs. The fusion of rap and soul she pioneered with I Feel For You became a blueprint for decades of hits. The foundation Khan established in 1999 supports autism awareness, women's empowerment, and youth education through music and the arts. Based in Los Angeles, the Chaka Khan Foundation focuses on programs that provide care, scholarships, and creative opportunities for underserved communities. These efforts aren't penance. Khan maintains she regrets nothing, but rather an extension of her revolutionary spirit into new channels. Her relationship with her granddaughter has evolved from crisis management to genuine stability. The child she took in during her darkest period now sees a grandmother who keeps promises, shows up consistently, maintains boundaries. The generational pattern hasn't been erased. Trauma doesn't disappear that easily, but it's been interrupted. The cycle that ran from her father through her to her son has been given a chance to end. "I happen to have achieved self-love," Khan said in a recent interview, describing her current life philosophy. The theme of her shows is literally, "I love myself," an assertion that might sound like ego from someone else, but from Khan represents hard-won victory. She spent decades trying to destroy herself. Now she protects herself with the same intensity she once used to court danger. Chaka Khan refused management her entire life. Record executives couldn't control her. Producers couldn't contain her. Even addiction, that most tyrannical manager, couldn't ultimately own her. She survived by being exactly what they said she was, unmanageable. The difference now is that she's learned to stop managing herself through destruction. In an interview, she laughed and said she's still looking forward to shit. The profanity delivered with a grin that shows she's earned the right to speak exactly how she wants. The fire that Yoruba priest identified when she was 13 still burns. It just doesn't consume her anymore. The queen who built her throne on refusing to be tamed remains wild, remains free, remains here. That might be the most revolutionary act of all,